Welcome into another episode of the Laser Bros podcast. We are your hosts, Logan and Luke Lazarchik. Today, a double header episode. We're going to do a two-parter of training camp stories, NFC and AFC. So we're going to do both conferences today in separate recordings. Luke, I know training camp starting this week. I know we're both pretty excited that football's finally around the corner. That we've kind of had all these other sporting events going on, but now it's football season officially. Feels like.
I mean, I don't think I'm as much there as you. I'm still like the Open Championships going on right now. Rooting for Tiger. Currently trying to see how Tiger's doing on this hole as we speak. He has a chance for a birdie. It's 2 over. He has a chance for a birdie. But then you got the Olympics coming up. But yeah, football it's getting closer. We've had a lot of sports going on. Wimbledon, golf, all sorts of things, and we're gonna have the Olympics. But yeah, football nearly there.
Yeah, and like I said, training camp has started this week. There's been a couple of teams that have already had rookies report and quarterbacks report. So we're going to get into it right now, and we're going to start with the NFC side of things. And what we're going to do is we are going to go division by division, starting with the NFC East. And we'll start with the Dallas Cowboys, who won the division last year. Pretty interesting offseason. Jerry Jones said they're going all in. Didn't really make any moves that give
all in, sure.
that vibe of going all in. What's your main takeaway of their offseason? What do you expect to be the storyline in training camp and for the season overall?
It's the contracts. It's Dak's contract. It's CD's contract. Has Micah got a contract yet? It's so long.
No, he still has 2 years left on his.
Yeah, but he's becoming eligible here soon. I mean, for them, it's who are they going to sign? Who's going to be? I mean, obviously Dak is the thing. Are you going to re-sign Dak? So I think it's just that simple. Who are they signing? And that will determine their future.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, I agree with you. That's probably the main storyline of their offseason and heading to training camp at this point. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I were them, I would sign CD and Micah. That's just me. I would let Dak walk, but it will be interesting to see because I think CD's going to hold out training camp until he gets a contract. I think that's what's going to end up happening. He's already held out of other offseason programs. Micah, he still has 2 years left on his deal, so the Cowboys could validate saying he still has 2 years. We can sign him later down the road, but there's no way you afford all three of these players. So I think you're going to have to choose 2 to 3. And if I'm Dallas, you already know what Dak is. He comes up short in the playoffs. I would sign CD and Micah and maybe go get a quarterback in the draft or, sign a cheaper option the offseason next season. But I don't know. Dallas really didn't do enough for me this offseason to make them a compelling team for me. I mean, they're always a compelling team because they're the Cowboys, but I don't think they're going to be as good as many people think they're going to be.
I think they're still solid. I mean, you still got talent. You still got defensive talent. You have Trayvon Diggs return, so maybe you have that cornerback duo now that's really good, even though they'd probably be hit and miss, but that's their play styles. But so I think they're still good, but I mean, I just let Dak play it out. I wouldn't say I'd be like, oh, I'm done with Dak. I'd just be like, Dak, you're going to have to prove it. And if he does, he does. If he doesn't, move on. I think it's just simple. I don't think it's as complicated as people make it.
Well, I don't think so either. Like, I'm not signing him regardless this offseason. I'm making him play it out and prove that he can win. And I think they have to at least reach an NFC Championship game for the team to consider re-signing Dak. Like, if they go one and done in the playoffs again, they're definitely not re-signing him. And if you get a divisional round again, I mean, you've already done that over and over again. So I think an NFC Championship game appearance is what Dak is going to have to achieve to get a contract extension.
Probably so.
So yeah, I don't think Dak's on the Cowboys next year just because I believe that's what the level that they're gonna have to get to this season. So I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting what the quarterback position is going to be in the future. Let's shift over to the Philadelphia Eagles. They finished second place last year. They were 10-1 at one point last year before imploding. Made some key offseason additions this year at the offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, and running back position. What's something that you think is going to be dominating the headlines in Philadelphia?
I mean, I feel like a lot of people want to say, oh, Jalen Hurts, blah, blah, quarterback situation coordinators, which I understand. But for me, it's really, they're 2 rookies, Quinton Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. Is it going to fix their secondary or not? Because that secondary, you could say like they kind of fell apart. I mean, Hurts did not end the year well, but he was like hurt. He was hurt. O-line's getting older. There's a lot of issues, but the secondary was garbage. I mean, it was bad. So you took Quinn and Mitchell, 22nd, who fell. It was 22nd. Yeah, 22nd.
Yeah.
Got Cooper Jean,
First
second
corner off
round.
the board.
Who also was considered that he fell. So are those two guys legit? I think if they are, you could really do something. If they're not, you're back into a similar situation you just were in.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts, I don't think is much of a storyline. I mean, he's under a contract. I mean, he has
Yeah.
to play well this season. He's only had one good year, but he's under contract. There's no jeopardy in his future in Philadelphia. For me, it's the addition of Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio, defense coordinator, in addition to the corners that they added. I think offensively, I think they'll be fine. I think Kellen Moore, when he is able to and there's always criticism of Kellen Moore in general of his offense coordinator position, but I think under Brand Staley, I don't think a lot of people are going to succeed. And I think, you added Saquon this offseason. I think that's a great addition to the offense. Maybe slightly overpaid for him, but you add a dynamic running back in that running back room. And yeah, I think the defense, that's what the season can come down to is can the defense perform? And Quinn and Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, they may not make a huge impact right away, but by the time we're, around Thanksgiving, week 12, heading to the playoffs, you probably want to see them stepping up their play. And that's what Philadelphia is going to have to be in the playoffs is a strong defense to compete for a Super Bowl.
No, yeah, I agree. It's those two.
Let's now shift over to the New York Giants. They finished third last year. They're on the Hard Knocks show we've been watching. We watched the episode yesterday. Watching that, I don't know. I don't think Joe Shane. I think he's kind of over his head, and maybe I'm being a little too overreacting to that. But I don't know. The way the Giants, just watching the stuff on that, like the owner definitely want to keep Saquon, and I think keeping Saquon probably wasn't a smart thing when you have Daniel Jones on a contract like that. But what's the biggest storyline you think heading into the offseason for the Giants?
I mean, I don't get why you think he's over his head per se. You just didn't keep Saquon, but they made some nice
I'm not
moves.
saying Saquon stuff, but even I don't know. Watching him, I don't know. I don't think he's. I don't know. I don't think he's that good of a GM right now, and I can definitely see him getting fired. I don't know. Just watching it, I don't know. I don't get a good vibe from watching it.
Well, I don't know. I think that's a little. I don't know. I don't see anything like, oh, he's doing anything ridiculous. Literally, the only thing that's even controversial is the Saquon stuff, and I think they made the right move. But I think their storyline is the O-line play. I mean, obviously Daniel Jones, but this connects to Daniel Jones with is the offensive line play going to protect them? They made 2 signings the offseason, as you could see, watching the Hard Knocks, and they prioritized that. Are they going to be able to protect them? And if so, maybe Malik Neighbors becomes something. Maybe Jalen Hyatt becomes something. Devin Singletary could have a good year replacing Saquon. But if that O-line is not looking good, it's not gaining the chemistry in this training camp, then they're going to be bad, and Daniel Jones won't play well, and Shine will get fired, and Dable will probably be fired, and the Giants will be again starting anew. So it's about that O-line play.
I think it's more about Daniel Jones and how he plays. Now, offensive line definitely has to hold up in protection for Daniel Jones to play well, but I think Daniel Jones, I think everybody's future is riding on Daniel Jones' performance in 2024. So I think for me, that's probably the biggest storyline. And I don't really buy into people saying that it's going to be a quarterback competition between him and Drew Lock. I mean, when you're paying Daniel Jones that much money, you're not going to do a quarterback competition.
Yeah.
Now, if he struggles midseason, maybe you can insert Drew Lock in there, but I don't think there's any quarterback competition going on. I mean, you're paying Daniel Jones $40+ million this year. That wouldn't make much sense to me. So they're all in on Daniel Jones this year. I mean, they were trying to get a quarterback in the draft based on some of the episodes that we've been watching, but I think it's all on Daniel Jones this year. So it's a make or break it season, I think, for the entire staff, not just Daniel Jones.
Yeah, they need to win, at least they just need to show something. I don't know what you have to win. I don't know if there's an exact number. I think it's more. I don't think there's a number.
I'm trying to think an NFC, but I don't think they're a viable playoff team at all.
They could. They made it 2 years ago. You can do it again.
I think losing Saquon is a bigger deal than people. You lose the explosiveness in your offense. Now, Malik Neighbors, I think, can be really good, but I don't know. I think for Daniel Jones, you want a strong running game. So I think Devin Singletary is going to have to be really good.
Singletary was quite good last year, and I think it's really I think it's about the O line. I think it's about the O line. Protect
Because
him.
they have some nice pieces on defense. Like I like the pass rushers that they have. Secondary maybe a little weak.
Yeah, the
I do like
secondary's
the
not
pass
great, but
rushers, but for me, I'm not huge on Giants, and I think you have to at least challenge for the playoffs for the
yeah,
ownership
challenge
to
for the playoffs. That's probably a good challenge.
yeah. Because if you finish like what you did last, if you're a top 6-5 pick, I think you're all
No, yeah,
gone.
that's over. That's over.
Last team, the Washington Commanders, a team that a lot of people have as a sleeper team this year. I'm not sure where I stand on that, but what do you expect from Washington, and what's a storyline in training camp that
I
you're
mean,
going to pay attention to?
Washington's all right everywhere. I mean, their front seven's not as good as it once was. Um, I mean, their offense has potential to be pretty good, and I just think the main storyline is Jaden Daniels. How good is he? I think he's the out of all the quarterbacks, he needs to be good by week 4 for you to feel good about your future.
Are you saying by all the rookie quarterbacks?
Yes, yeah, all the rookie quarterbacks. He has to be good. Maybe not week, but he has to show some good flashes this rookie
So
season.
so
He's
if you if
older.
what so are you saying if he doesn't show flashes by then that
Week 4 was a dumb. I don't know exactly, but he needs to be good this season. Not where it's like, oh, he's a top 10 quarterback already, but like if he plays like how Will Levis did last year, which Will Levis showed some stuff, but then he had some bad weeks and he was younger and that made more sense. But if he plays like Will Levis, you're kind of like, ugh, Jane Daniels old, he's thin, and that's you need him to play. I mean, CJ Stroud's way too. That was like the best rookie season ever. But you need to see some good stuff from Jane Daniels, and I think we will. So I think that's the main storyline. Everything else, Ayuk stuff, I don't even think Niners will trade him. So that's not really a thought. Just Jane Daniels, how good will he be?
yeah, I'm not. I don't really necessarily agree with you about Jane Daniels like having to be good. As long as he shows flashes and shows that, and like throughout the year he keeps developing and improving. That's all. He's a rookie quarterback. I'm not going to expect
Yeah,
him
but he's an
to.
old rookie quarterback who's thin and who spent a lot of time I think you just need stuff. It's like Burrow like showed enough before he got hurt. He showed enough his rookie year because he was older. You're like, okay, we got something here. I don't think you could be uncertain at all
I
and
mean,
feel confident in
it's
any
his
way.
first year. I don't think they're going to jump ship
Not
if he
jump
struggles.
ship, but I'm just talking about feeling positive for the future
I
and
mean, for
having
Jane
a
Daniels,
successful
what I'm more
season.
concerned with is that he doesn't really slide. I mean, in college, he invited taking hits from defenders. He needs to learn how to slide, especially with a thin frame. He needs to learn to protect himself. But yeah, I think the development of Jane Daniels is definitely the most intriguing storyline for the Commanders, because I don't expect them to do anything, and maybe they could be a dark horse team that surprises some people if Daniels does hit right away. But I think like his mobility and all that, his athleticism can buy him some time in his development. He can rely on that if he's still trying to learn the game and all that. So I don't know. I think Washington's an interesting team because they have the offensive talent. Jane Daniels is a quarterback. I think offensively they could be very good. I don't know defensively how they're going to be. I know Dan Quinn's the head coach now, so you expect the defense to be pretty good, and they add some veterans on that side of the ball. But for me, it's more about the offensive side of the ball that
Yeah,
I'm going to pay attention to this season.
the defense is like 25% and paying 75% to the offense.
Mm-hmm. Let's now move over to the NFC South. I think by far the worst division in football. Tampa Bay won the division last year, so let's start there. What do you see Tampa Bay this season? What kind of are you looking forward to when watching them this season?
I mean, the O line is sort of shaken up a little bit. They drafted what's his name from Duke? I'm gonna look right now.
Oh, Graham Barton.
Yeah, Graham Barton lost some people. So I think just continuing what you saw from Baker. I mean, last year was pretty successful. You have to be pretty pleased about what you saw. You won a playoff game. You competed in the second one with the team that was better. Mike Evans was great. Godwin was coming back, but I think it's really about just continuing the progression of Baker and that offensive line. I think those are the two main points. Just seeing how that goes. I think I like Tampa to still be a pretty solid team this year. I don't know how well or if they'll make the playoffs, but be a solid team.
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay takes a step back this year. I think losing Dave Canales, the offensive coordinator, to Carolina as a head coach, I think that's a big deal. So I think Baker takes a step back slightly this year, and I really don't think they added. I mean, they improved the offensive line a bit, but like Weapons wise, I know you added Bucky Irving. They drafted the Washington receiver that I'm kind of blanking on right now. I think they drafted him later in the draft.
Jalen McMillan.
Yeah. Chris Godwin, I think, has lost a step. I don't know. The Tampa Bay, to me, I don't think they really improved their roster that much, while other teams in their division did. And I'm not saying they're finishing last place or anything like that. I think they finished second or third, but I think they take a slight step back, and I don't think they reach the playoffs this year. But I think what I'm most pay attention to is how Baker Mayfield looks without Dave Canales as the offense coordinator.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I think Baker's proven enough where he's a solid quarterback, and I trust him to be a solid quarterback. I mean, last year was pretty cool to see him kind of rejuvenate stuff, and yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
Next team, they finished second in the division last year, the New Orleans Saints. I mean, this team, I don't know. I think they're going to be pretty stagnant with Derek Carr at quarterback. I don't know how you think about the team, but I don't have a lot of faith in this team. In training camp, I guess I don't know what I'm really expecting. Heading into training camp and heading into the season.
I mean, I think they're the most boring team in football. I don't think there's anything fun about them except Taysom Hill may run the ball a little bit. So what I wrote down for the training camp thing is anything interesting to develop, just anything. Is it maybe Kool-Aid McKinstry is just locked down, or maybe Spencer Rattler is like, oh, you'll start next season, or maybe you draft. I mean, I don't know, just something.
Yeah, I'm very curious, and I mean they're paying Derek Carr. They backloaded his contract, so his cap hit the next 2 seasons is at least $50 million. I guess just watching Spencer Rattler and seeing if he could push Derek Carr for the job. But the thing is, Dennis Allen.
I mean, Derek Carr's not being pushed for the job unless he plays bad, which can happen.
That's not, I'm saying like by mid-season. But like I think if Spencer Rattler can show something in training camp and preseason, maybe that puts something back in the coach's mind. Like later in the season, let's give this kid a shot because Derek Carr's struggling. Which I don't know. Dennis Allen, I don't know how he still has that job. I don't get what he did last year to retain his position as head coach. But yeah, the Saints I don't think are that excitement team, and I think midway through this year, next season, it's going to be looking like a completely different team. Like I think it's a possibility if they're really bad midway through the year that they could trade Kamara and Lattimore near the trade deadline and try to recoup some draft picks. But yeah, I'm not really looking forward to watching the Saints at all this season.
Me neither.
Next team, and this team finished third in the division, added Kirk Cousins to their quarterback room, drafted Michael Penix, the Atlanta Falcons. I think this is a really exciting team this year just based on them finally getting a quarterback to lead this team. What say you?
I mean, that's literally that's the main storyline. I don't think it's really that complicated. It's Kirk Cousins and his health. You're going to assume he's going to be healthy and fine. And if it does go down, bad health, you have Michael Penix behind there, which was interesting. But I mean, yeah, I don't think because Kirk Cousins is there, I don't think the whole training camp is looking at Michael Penix. It's just, is Kirk Cousins healthy? How good is Kirk Cousins going to be? I think it's that simple because they're a really talented team.
Now, I don't think Michael Penix is going to push Kirk Cousins, obviously, for the job, but I am interested to see how Michael Penix looks like in practices and if we see videos surface on Twitter because, I mean, he's definitely their future of the team. I think Kirk Cousins is more of a 2-year proposition by the way they structure the contract.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I'm very intrigued by his team, though. I think offensively they should be really good. And, I mean, they're clearly the favorites for the division based on the fact that they have the best quarterback in the division. So, offensively during training camp is what I'm interested to see. In training camp, I try not to read too much in training camp at the same time because offenses are going to mostly win because you can't touch the quarterback and the defenders aren't going to hit. So I'm not going to read too much into it, but if the offense is clicking and it seems like everybody's on the same page, that's something that I'm watching in Atlanta's training camp.
Mm-hmm.
Last team, the Carolina Panthers, had the number 1 pick last year by trading up and get the number 1 pick this year, which went to Chicago. They hired Dave Canales as their head coach. Bryce Young entering his second season, adding some receivers to the receiving room. What is something that you are looking forward to Carolina heading into training camp?
I mean, it's kind of tough to choose like a specific thing. So I'm just going to go the overall Dave Canales. I have a good feeling about Dave Canales and the overall offense. So you have to build an O-line to protect Bryce Young because Bryce Young was getting slaughtered. He's small. That doesn't help him. They were the worst team last year. I mean, he just got decimated and he did not look good, which I don't think you can blame him. And then his own progression there. And then they drafted Xavier Legette, Jonathan Brooks. So they've reloaded with young talent. Legette is an athletic freak, and Jonathan Brooks, if he didn't tear his ACL, may have been a first round pick. So it's overall the development of that offense and Dave Canales. And I think you're not looking to win 7 games, you're just looking for progression. And so I think that's the main thing, just progress.
Yeah, and I think Bryce Young is the most important member of that team. I believe if he doesn't, and I'm not saying like move off, but if he struggles again like he did last season with Dave Canales, and I think he actually improves with Canales as the head coach, but if he struggles again, I think the panic meter is really going to be going off in Carolina.
Yes.
But I'm with you. I think seeing how these offensive weapons look, they drafted Jonathan Brooks, who we were both huge fans of out of Texas, their running back.
Mm-hmm.
We both thought that was a really good pick by the Carolina Panthers. I think you think it's a better fit. I've kind of grown into that, thinking it's a really good fit for the Panthers. But I think for me, it's just what they do offensively with the new weapons. So that's something that I'm going to be watching in training camp in the preseason.
You have to protect them. That's my thing. Can't let them die.
And protection, yeah. And they added some pieces to the offensive line, so
yeah,
they realized that was a huge issue last season.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move over to the NFC West. The defending NFC Conference champions, San Francisco 49ers, finished first place. A lot of drama this offseason with the 49ers, particularly with one player, Brandon Ayuk. Is that something that you are reading much into, or do you think, they just kind of force his hand and make him play under his contract this season?
I mean, Debo requested a trade once, and who's their kicker?
I mean, it was Robbie Gould. But the thing with Debo, though, is that he requested a trade. It was before the draft it was prior to the draft, so it gave the team time to potentially work out a trade and a contract. This is a week before training camp. So I don't think it's exactly the same situation. You could say both players requested a trade, but the timeline and timing of when the players requested a trade, I think makes this a much more complicated decision for the 49ers.
I mean, honestly, this is the only storyline that I think there is Ayuk and then the younger receivers. And I honestly don't. Here's what I bet will happen. It's just going to be week 1. He's going to show up. He's going to have to show up because he's going to get paid. And then it's going to be, he already has chemistry with Purdy, so you don't have to worry about that. He already has worked in the offense. There's nothing new about the offense. He just has the younger guy behind him now, Ricky Pershaw and Jacob Cowing, who I think people think is pretty good and was a good value in the 4th round. So just continue doing what they're doing. Don't let the Ayuk stuff get too much, and I bet they won't. They're well ran. So besides that Ayuk thing, I just don't find them that interesting either, because I kind of just know what they are, and I think it's pretty simple like that. They're great on offense, great on defense. You're trying to win a Super Bowl, yeah.
Now, I think the Brandon Ayuk thing, I mean, there's even more drama now because Ricky Pearsall suffered an injury away from the team.
That's
so
true.
Now it's like, so I think that Ayuk thing's a big deal. Like, I think they've lost Brandon Ayuk. Like, I think that it's a big hit to their team. Like,
but they're not going to trade him.
No, I don't think they will. But let's say they do or whatever. Like, they're forced. Like, whatever leads to them doing that. I think that's a huge loss to their team. Because in my opinion, I think he's the best receiver on the team. I think what they ideally want is they just want Brandon Ayuk to play this year out, trade Debo next offseason, and try to sign Ayuk to a contract next offseason. I think that's what Debo, they're looking to trade him, in my opinion, because they reached out to teams. He's an older player. His style of play leads to more injuries. He's not that good of a route runner. I think Ayuk's
okay. He's a good route runner. Yes, he is. Not that good of a route runner. He had 1,500 yards in the season. Yes, he is.
Yeah, most of his stuff came on near the line of scrimmage and all that. It was not. You got shut down the Super Bowl by
by a really good defense of secondary. Yeah. Okay, he didn't have a great Super Bowl. I mean, he had 1,500 yards in the season. It wasn't like 1,000 of them were just like you get open. He was getting balls down the field, close to the line of scrimmage, you still have to run routes. Well, that's ridiculous. Not that good
Well,
of a route
I
runner.
think they're gonna trade Debo next offseason.
Yeah,
And
but
that's why I
that's
think
fine.
Ayuk
But to
is a
say
big
he's
deal.
not that good of a route runner,
I think he's an average route runner. I don't think he's
not
like
an
great
average route
runner.
runner. You get 1,500 yards in a season. I don't care the style. You're not an average route runner. You're not. You're better than that. 1,500.
Okay,
I
that's
don't
great.
care. I don't care
That
the
could also be the
style. Yeah,
scheme.
that it's not this. I think we all know Debo's insane. 1,500 yards. He's a great receiver. He's a pretty good route runner. I don't think that's you. You have one game in the Super Bowl against a great secondary, and then you're saying he's an average route
I'm not
runner.
saying I'm not just betting on Super Bowl, but when you watch Ayuk is clearly a
Yeah, when you
better
watch him.
route runner than Debo.
Okay. Oh,
And I
congrats.
think
Yes,
he's a
he
better
is.
receiver than
Okay, yes,
Debo.
but that's not my argument. I think that's fine to say. He's still at 900 yards and a stacked offense and missing 2 games. Average route runner. I think that's one of the no.
Okay.
Everything else is fine, but average route runner is ridiculous.
Let's move on to the Los Angeles Rams. I think this is a team that a lot of people are saying this team could push for the Super Bowl, push the 49ers for a division. What is your thoughts on the Rams heading to the season?
I trust the offense. Kyron Williams, great running back. Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka got better in the line, but I think it's really about how good can the defense be, because you do lose Donald, but he wasn't the same Aaron Donald. He was still pretty good.
Yeah, we
but
still have presence.
Yeah, he's still a presence, but you had rookie Kobe Turner, 9 sacks, rookie Byron Young, 8 sacks. So you really showed some stuff up front, and then you went and drafted Jared Verse and Brandon Fisk. So I think they're going in on this young defense, this young defensive line. I like their young defense line. I think the defense can be something pretty nice. Now, I think fringe top 10 would be like the best, because I'm not still
You think they're a top 10 defense?
They could be. I think they could be. I think the secondary is still leaving some. You're still not fantastic in the secondary. I mean, Darius Williams and Darius Williams.
I think they're too young to be the defense is pretty young. I think they're too young to be reaching top 10 potential. Especially when you look at other
there's a
defenses
lot
in the
of once you get to top 10 in defense, once you get to like 8 and 9, it's nothing like insane. So I think like at top 5 is that elite, and then anything you can be 6 through 15 and be pretty similar. I mean, they have Tre'Davious White now, who you'll see how that goes. Darian Kendrick. I'm just looking through the roster here. I mean, yeah, the secondary is just a little weak, but it's also a lot of people they've developed, like Russ Yeast, who they've developed, former Wildcat. But I like the front line. I mean, they could get after. There's a chance that they have one of the best pass rush groups in football, and they're all young. So I think if their defense can really develop, that makes them into that potential Super Bowl team.
For me, the main 2 storylines are Matthew Stafford's health and the defense, like you said. I think that's basically the whole season is predicated on those 2 things. I think if Stafford deals with injuries, this team instantly becomes a non-playoff team and a team. And I know that Jimmy Garoppolo, for me, that doesn't really move the needle. I know Sean McVay in his system, maybe Garoppolo could be productive, but I think if Stafford goes down with injury, I think their season plummets with that. So definitely the health of Matthew Stafford is what I'm watching. And, I think if 49ers do end up moving off of Ayuk, I think I would shift my potential pick to the Rams. But right now, I still think those are probably the top 2 teams clearly in the division. And I think Rams, they have a lot of offense, like young talent on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. So I think it's going to be a fun team to watch this year. Now, I am intrigued to see if they can push the 49ers for the division.
I mean, if they win the division, I even without Ayuk, I'd take Niners, because you still have McCaffrey and Debo and Kittle, and then your Pershaw probably should be playing, and you still have Shanahan and Purdy and all the talent on the defense. So if they win the division, I mean, Sean McVay should win. Someone needs to win an award. McVay, Coach of the Year, Stafford, MVP, someone Defense Player of the Year, Rookie Defense, something. I still think that's such a tall task, but they're capable of it. But everything would have to work right for them.
Well, if they're top 10 defense, I would give them a shot. Even though I don't think
I'd give them a shot, but I still think the Niners are so good. They're just so good.
Next team, the Seattle Seahawks. They fired Pete Carroll, brought Mike McDonald in as a head coach, hired former Washington Huskies offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb as their own offensive coordinator. I kind of like Seattle this season. I think they're a sleeper team. I don't think they're going to win the division by any means or compete for the division, but I do think they ultimately reach the playoffs, and I like what they've done this offseason.
I mean, they won 9 games last year, middle of the pack. I just still see them as a middle of the pack team. I don't think much changes from that. I guess just how Mike McDonald having a new head coach after all this time, Pete Carroll. I mean, that's my storyline. I don't think. Yeah, I still feel like they're middle of the pack. So can Mike McDonald add something to push them above? We'll see. I guess that's my storyline there.
Yeah, my storyline is Mike McDonald, and can he get this defense to where it's supposed to be? Because last year under Pete Carroll, the defense was pretty bad, and that's Pete Carroll's. It's his strength is the defense side of the ball. But Mike McDonald, I think, best defense coordinator in the league last season, outside of Steve Spagnuolo, probably. And you add that to Seattle, who I think has actually a lot of talent on the defense side of the ball. You have Leonard Williams. They drafted defensive tackle out of Texas.
Byron Murphy.
Byron Murphy fortified that offense or defensive line. You have some good players in secondary. I think Seattle, their defense, I think it's not going to be Legion of Boom at all, but I think it's going to, get to a level where a lot of teams are not going to want to face that defense. And offense, the offense side of the ball, I think, has a lot of talent too. I expect JSN to take a step forward. If Tyler Lockett ends up being a wide receiver 3, I think it's a pretty good thing. If that's how it shapes out as DK, JSN, and Tyler is your 3, I think that's a pretty good receiving core. And you have Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. I think it all comes down to Geno Smith, and if he can return somewhat to his 2022 form.
I just don't. I think their thing is they don't have stars. They don't have a lot of stars. DK's a star, but DK is also more pop. I mean, he's near top 10 receiver, so I don't want to disrespect him, but he's probably a little more popular than he is good.
Do you think Jason could develop into a star?
But he's not a star yet. He's not one yet. He could very well, but he's not there yet. So I'm not considering him one. And Leonard Williams is good, but he's not a star. Jaron Reed had 7 sacks last year. That's so weird. That's weird.
I think they're sliding their talent a bit. They're still a pretty talented team.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing in this division, especially. You got San Francisco, star. Rams have multiple stars. I'd still take the Rams defense over Seattle's defense. I don't know. I kind of like it more, especially that they're all young and they produce that well.
Seattle's defense is relatively young as well.
I know,
but say they're old defense.
Yeah, but I don't know. No, they don't have an old defense, but the Rams were rookies, and they drafted a lot of good rookies. And Seattle, the whole secondary, was it?
Well, they have Devon Witherspoon.
Who got benched last? Did
Tyreek
Woolen get benched last year? He got benched last year, and that's a problem.
But I think the addition of Mike McDonald's going to I think it's going to improve that side of the ball.
Yeah, but you still have Pete Carroll.
I think they have the talent that they need on that side of the ball. They just need I don't think Pete Carroll was that good of a coach at that point last season. He's still a decent coach, but Mike McDonald, he led the best defense in the league.
Yeah, but he also had a lot of talent, and he had the Harbaugh.
So how many stars were on the Baltimore defense last year? I'm just curious. I'm not I don't know.
Justin Madubuike turned into a star.
Okay.
He's really good.
I wouldn't necessarily say Patrick Queen was a star. That was on the defense side of the ball. Marlon Humphrey is one of the corners. I don't think he's a star at this point.
Kyle Hamilton's a star.
Okay. I think Devon Witherspoon could be a star. I think.
No, he could, but they just have a lot of people who haven't done it yet. And Woolen got benched, and McDonald's probably a better defense coach right now than Pete Carroll is, but it's still Pete Carroll. And I just don't
think he's for sure. Did you see what Baltimore defense did to San Francisco last season?
Well, yeah. This is just why I feel like they're middle of the pack. They're middle of the pack. I don't see. They're middle of the pack team.
And I'm not saying they're going to finish 11, 12 wins, but I think they are a wild card team in the playoffs season.
Maybe.
But the
maybe.
NFC, like the NFC, the wild card, it's gonna be tough. But I really like the hiring of Mike McDonald, and I think if Geno Smith can just return to what he was somewhat in 2022, I think. And
I
I think
think Geno
also,
Smith is very mid. I mean,
but I also think getting rid of Shane Waldron and bringing Ryan Grubb in there is also a huge addition. I don't this off like Jason, I think was misutilized last season. I mean, I think he
we'll
averaged like
see.
I think this offense is going to be
We
looking.
don't
They're
know if
going
the
to
Wash.
use.
It could have just been a lot of Kalen DeBoer. I mean, now coaching Alabama, a lot of his system. I think they're a middle of the pack team who could make the playoffs, but you're just not expecting much.
Let's move on to the last team in this division, Arizona Cardinals. They drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. 4th overall. They have Trey McBride there. Drafted Trey Benson. I think they had like 12 picks in this past draft. I think they did a really
They had a
good
lot.
job.
They
I
had
think
a
they did a
lot.
really good job in the draft. What are you expecting from the Cardinals this season, and what are you going to watch closely in training camp and in the preseason?
I think it's all about Kyler. I mean, Kyler was hurt. And then there's been like some Kyler, like, oh, how good is he? And then all this controversy. So I think it's Kyler, his connection with Marvin Harrison was the highest touted receiver prospect since Calvin. And I mean, we were barely watching football when Calvin got drafted. We were pretty young. So I think that's pretty simple. Is Marvin Harrison about to be the best receiver in the league? And then he has possibly one of the better tight ends, McBride. So yeah, I think that's pretty simple. It's just Kyler and his connection with his weapons, especially Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, Kyler Murray, he's a pretty tough quarterback for me to like if we were doing rankings and all that. Like he's a good
Yeah, I have no
quarterback, but
idea.
I truly don't know where I'd rank him. Like I think he's clearly top like 20. I think he's top 15. It's just I think it's kind of tough to where to.
He could have a good 4-week stretch, and I could be like, you know what? He's top 10.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals this year. I don't expect them to do much, but I mean that's another team that a lot of people have as a dark horse. Make a push for playoffs, make some noise, but I don't know. There's just something still missing with the Cardinals. I can't put my finger on, but there's just something that I don't think is going to propel them into anything this season.
I mean, they don't really have much on defense. I mean, Jonathan Gannon, head coach, defense head coach. I know they drafted that Missouri guy who I guess was kind of a lot of teams liked, but the media.
I think the Cardinals are a year away from. I think it's going to be coming down to next offseason if they want to be real contenders. I think they're still a year away and still need additions. But yeah, for me it's Kyler and it's Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride. That's what I'm going to be watching.
Yeah, same.
Let's now move over to the NFC North. Arguably the best division of football. It's probably AFC North, but NFC North is probably a close second. Let's start with the Lions. They won the division last year. Came up short in the NFC Championship game. Probably should have won that game. To be quite honest with you, probably should have won that game.
They kind of messed that up.
Signed Jared Goff to a contract extension, making him one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league.
Signed Amon-Ra and
signed Amon-Ra.
Kenny Sewell as well.
Added some drafted Terrion Arnold, cornerback to Alabama in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this team is going to be the same team as last year? Like I think that they could easily push for a Super Bowl appearance.
No, yeah, I think that's the thing. I think theirs is pretty simple. Are they going to continue to be as good as they were? Was it a fluke? I don't think it was. They're similar with the Eagles in the sense that a lot of it is the secondary that holds them back, and they drafted 2 rookies. So it's about, do those guys show up? So I think that's pretty simple. But are they still a really good team to win a Super Bowl? Which I think is yes. I mean, they're pretty same. It's just, can they get to that next level is basically their storyline. They have a fun 2-week start. They face the 2 teams they face in the playoffs, the Rams and Tampa, so that's fun. So I think they're just, how well are they a true contender? Pretty simple.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm also Jameson Williams. I think is going to be a huge storyline because they need him to develop into a number 2 receiver. Because really, outside of Amon-Ra and Laporta, the passing game, you need another weapon in the passing game, I think, for you to actually elevate into the Super Bowl. Like, I really like their weapons. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, but I think they need one more receiver to really take the pop off.
I kind of have a good feeling about Jameson Williams this year. I have a good feeling.
because he had an ACL injury at Alabama, and I kind of stuttered his development a little bit. But I think if he can develop into a receiver, like a wide receiver 2, a really good field stretcher. I mean, he showed out in the NFC Championship game. I think he scored the first touchdown in around. He made some other catches. I think if they can get some more of that play, I think that's a team that could easily get to Super Bowl. And I think at this point, I mean, the top 2 teams in the NFC for me are probably San Francisco and the Lions. I think we could see a rematch in the championship game. But I also could see the Eagles making a championship game appearance as well. So, but yeah, I think the Lions really good shape. Let's move to the second place team, Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. It did not look good for the first 8 weeks or so last season. It really looked like Jordan Love was not the answer quarterback. And then the final 10 weeks, he played really well. I think throwing for 23 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, I think was his final 10-week stretch. Is that basically the top storyline? Is just if Jordan Love?
Yeah.
What do you last season?
I think they're literally they're in the Lions' trajectory, and they're just 1 year behind. And so this season, I think could be very similar to last year's Lions season. And so it's just, is Jordan Love legit? And I think most people agree he is. That he was so good that you kind of push away the bad, which I'm mostly there. But you want to see maybe a good 5-week start, and then you're like, yeah, it's not even a discussion anymore. I mean, if I were them, I would have signed him after the playoffs because now all these people.
I would have signed him before.
I don't get why they didn't do that. I mean, just take the shot. I mean, you almost beat the Niners. You probably should have.
Now, I kind of get why they didn't though, because here's the thing. I think Jordan Love's good. I do think the hype's gotten a little too.
But what if you signed him for $45 a year?
No. I understand. But what I'm saying is, it was 10 games. The first 8 games he looked off. I want to see, and I'm not saying he can't do it, but I want to see a little bit more until I fully buy into Jordan Love. People saying he's gonna be the next superstar quarterback. It was 10 games. Yeah, was he really good?
You just have to take your shot. You just have to take your shot because now, what if you make the title game and you're paying him $65? And you're like, we could have had him for 20 less. It's I would have paid him instant. I would have just been okay, 45, 5 years. How much is that?
Well, to be honest, I think you would have been
220.
I think regardless, I think you would have been at least 48 a year.
I mean, sure, okay, 48.
Because you look at these other quarterbacks' contracts, like Daniel Jones making $40 million. He would have made more than that. I think. I think. Now, I 20 million. I don't think it's a 20 million difference. I think it's more like 15 or 10, $15 million difference per year that they kind of cost themselves. But I still want to see another year of it. I want to see him carry over that final 10-week stretch into this season before I commit, that much money to him. But I do think he's going to be good. I think the hype of saying he's going to be a next superstar quarterback. Let's slow down a bit on that.
Yeah, the hype would be a lot, but I still would have signed him. I would
people are saying, is he a top 5 quarterback? Let's slow down. It was 10 games.
Yeah, I would have taken my shot though. I would have signed him. But I feel good.
Also, and before we move to next team, I think another storyline is which one of these young receivers establishes themselves as a wide receiver one, because they have so many receivers. They're all young, but we haven't really seen one, establish themselves as the leading receiver.
And it could literally be any of them. I mean, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed had 793 yards as a rookie. Dobbs, him and Love seem to really connect. But then there's also Wicks, who's analytically, Wicks is a top 10 receiver in the league. But Watson's still the most talented. And still pretty productive in the games he played. I mean, he was on pace for 800 yards, I think, just doing some quick math in my head. 422 through 9. So, yeah, it could be any one of them. Because
it's nice to have that many receivers that you can depend on. But I think if you really want to contend for Super Bowl, you need one to become your true number one.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean 1,300 yards. It's just
no. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying a guy that you can is a bona fide, reliable option. Next, I don't know
who it is.
Next team, the Minnesota Vikings. Interesting team this season for us too, because we have a personal bet between these next 2 teams. I'm growing pretty confident in my bet each and every day based on stuff that's going on, and putting my faith in Caleb Williams. But the Vikings, they draft J.J. McCarthy. They signed Sam Darnold to a 1-year deal. They signed Justin Jefferson, I think, to a $35 million per year deal.
Mm-hmm.
What I know, you're higher on the Vikings than I am. what is your take? Like, because I think the main storyline this offseason is their quarterback
I mean,
situation.
that's yes. So that is the main storyline, and I'm not saying it's not. But my thing is, I really think that defense kind of. I know if you look at the end of the season, there's some high scoring games of playing. The defense really showed some stuff last year, especially with Brian Flores as a defensive coordinator. I know they lost Daniil Hunter, but then they signed what's his name from Houston. I'm
It's
blanking.
basically a trade.
Yeah, it basically was a trade.
Was it Green? All right.
Greenlaw or something. Why am
It
I?
wasn't Greenlaw.
He sort of came out of nowhere, and they got Dallas Turner, who I think slid. And so, like, I honestly think the key to the Vikings this season is the defense more than the offense, because I trust the offense no matter who's playing quarterback to be pretty solid. I mean, you got Aaron Jones, so you got a big upgrade at running back. You got Jefferson, and then obviously Hawkinson. You'll wait to see, but I trust once he gets back, he's gonna be fine. He's really good. I mean, they were playing well with Josh Dobbs and who else?
They played well with Josh Dobbs for like 2 weeks.
No, yeah, but then who else? Nick Mullins was okay. Nick Mullins averaged 261 yards a game. It's kind of pretty good.
Okay, but how many interceptions per game?
No, 8 picks, but they were working with very not good quarterbacks, and they did better than expected. I think they won 7 games after a bad start and losing Kirk halfway through the year. So I kind of just trust the offense. If it's Sam or JJ, it'll probably be Sam for a while. But the Jordan Addison, I think I saw something where he's expected to get suspended one way or another by the league or just by the team, because with the sad death of Kyrie Jackson from a drunk driver and then him gave potential DUI. So that makes
Jordan Addison got cited for a ticket for speeding. I think he was going like 140 or something.
It's just so stupid when you just had this tragedy to your team and then you literally do like the same thing. And it wasn't even Kyrie Jackson's fault. It's sad, and he just looks like an idiot after that. But that does suck. That does suck. I mean, in more ways than one. So that is a storyline, but I still go back to, I think it's the defense progressing under Brian Flores, who's considered one of the better defensive minds in football, but kind of taking a step back a little bit. But then they found some stuff. So that's where I'm at. And that's why I'm more confident in them, I think, than others. And you think, I think I see the defense being pretty solid.
One, the Brian Flores thing, I think what he did last year is kind of overstated. He's blitzed.
No, but it was a progression.
It
was a progression throughout the year. Like their defense was not good at times, but it progressed. Is more of what I'm saying.
For me, here's the thing. Let's say Hawkinson, because I think Hawkinson's going to start the season on the pup. He'll probably miss the first 6 to 8 weeks of the regular season. If Jordan Addison gets suspended, there's another weapon. I was already low on the Vikings in general because Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy is not going to do it for me. Like, if Sam Darnold's just starting quarterback, like, I was high on Sam Darnold coming out of the draft because of the arm talent, but a main concern of his when he entered the draft was turnovers, and that's still the same thing. He still makes dumb decisions. And if that's supposed to be your saving grace at quarterback while your rookie quarterback's developing, good luck. And then if you're missing Hawkinson and Addison for a substantial period of time, you're going to be really lean on Justin Jefferson. And Justin Jefferson is capable of carrying an offense, but for me, the quarterback play is what's going to hold his team back. And that's basically my main storyline I'm going to be watching as well, is the quarterback. I think it's a competition. I think Sam Darnold, they want Sam Darnold to start regardless because they want J.J. McCarthy to sit. But I still think it's technically, quote-unquote, a competition. That's probably what I'm going to watch is how this offense looks with those two quarterbacks. But for me, I still have a lot of faith in the two quarterbacks. That's just why I'm not a huge believer in Vikings.
I mean, Sam Darnold was in that Kyle Shanahan system now for a year, and it seemed like they liked him. He played pretty solid in that one game where Brock Purdy got hurt. And no, he threw a pick late, but he looked pretty good. So the talent's there, and I think Kevin O'Connell is up there with Kyle Shanahan as one of the better coaches in football. And just a lot went wrong for them last year. I expect them to win a lot, and I do think the Aaron Jones thing, like, that's big, especially with the Addison thing. Having Aaron Jones is huge. But I expect them just to win, like, a lot of games, like 23-20. I just trust the coaching so much. I think that they have a great defensive mind and a progressing defense.
So you trust Sam Darnold and a rookie J.J. McCarthy to win a lot of close games. It's
not them doing. I think it's the coaching that will do it. I don't think they're going to be asked to do a ton. I mean, they have the best receiver in the league to get to throw to. And then eventually it'll be week 6 and you'll have Hawkinson. And I assume Addison, if he gets suspended, it's like 2 or 4 games. And then you're sitting there and you just have this trio of weapons plus Aaron Jones, an improving O-line, improving defense. So I think if they start off a little slow, I wouldn't be surprised. But they do face a Giants team that can be
What's their first 4 weeks? And I'm just
Giants,
curious.
San Fran, Houston, Green Bay. So it is tough, but you get the Giants.
So
So
they
you ought to win week
better
1.
win that first game. You better win that
Oh
first game.
yeah, so you got some sort of tough stuff going on early, but I trust the coaching. I could see if they're 2-2 after 4 weeks, feeling pretty solid. And then you face the Jets.
Do they have an early bye week?
Yeah, week 6, which honestly could be perfect for them. An early bye week could be perfect. Then they face the Jets week 5, and that's a bye. So if you're 3-2, then you hit the bye. I'm feeling really good about the Vikings. If you're 2-3, I expect them. I guess them to be 2-3.
No. I was going to ask, when do you expect? Like, let's give a week of when you think JJ McCarthy's going to start. And I know that's a lot of predicting.
Oh, I don't. I think there's a chance he doesn't start this year.
Okay.
I like Sam Darnold to have a solid.
At some point, Sam Darnold's going to implode. So
I like Sam Darnold to have a solid
here's
season,
my thing.
but
if they have to start,
as I was saying, I like Sam Darnold to have a solid, good season, but at the same time, they're like, okay, you had a lot to work with. Now next year's JJ, but I think I'd put like Sam Darnold starting over under games at like 14.5, just including injury. But
I would take the under so fast. If that's the line,
I think they're developed. He has a lot to work with, and they're developed. JJ is young as hell. He is young. So I think it's going to be week 17 and Sam Darnold starting, and he's going to be facing Detroit, maybe fighting for a playoff spot.
I think the sooner they have to start JJ McCarthy, the worse.
Yeah, I that's why I don't think he's going to start this year.
Like if he has to start by week 6 because of injury or Sam Darnold just playing terrible, I think they're in trouble.
I think by week 5, 2-3, you want to be 2-3. If you're 3-2, you're obviously if you're 4-1 or 5-0, you're like holy hell. But I'd expect them to be 2-3 and then hit a big boom after the bye. That'd just be my guess. I mean, I don't like looking at schedules. You know, I don't like looking at schedules, but that'd just be my guess. Their schedule does lighten up later, but again, who knows? That could be completely wrong. Maybe the team's completely different, but I still like them.
Last team in the NFC that we will talk about, the Chicago Bears, completely flipped their roster from last season. They get rid of Justin Fields. They draft Caleb Williams. They trade for Keenan Allen. They draft Rome Odunze as your wide receiver 3. You bring DeAndre Swift in. That defense was really strong at the end of the season. I think a top 10 unit from like week 10 on. Once they trade for Montez Sweat, the defense really elevated. I would like to see them get another pass rusher. I don't think they really did that. And I know they only had 4 draft picks in this past draft, so they're kind of limited of what they can do. And when you use 2 picks on Caleb and Rome Odunze, you don't really have an opportunity to address other positions. But for me, I'm really high in Chicago. Like, I think for me, I don't think it's going to happen, but I definitely think there's a scenario where they are pushing for second place in this division. I think they have all time in the world. If Caleb is what he's advertised as, this team, I think, you can make an argument that they finish second in the division. I think first place is a little too rich, but I think if Caleb hits right away, like we've talked about these rookie quarterbacks hitting and not hitting, I think if he can hit early in the season, I really like Chicago. I like their talent, and they're playing a very soft schedule. And I know you don't value schedules that much, but that's something that I put into my formula when predicting how teams will do.
I mean, yeah, they have a lot of talent. I think for me, their thing is this Caleb Williams. I think the storyline is they have so much. Well, obviously, it's Caleb Williams. That's the main storyline. Caleb Williams, first pick. Justin Fields did not work. You have one of the most highly touted quarterback prospects ever. But just what I want to see from Caleb Williams, I don't need to see you make these insane throws. I think we all know you can. Just don't be an idiot. And
he's making mistakes at times. Like, he has some of that gunslinger. Like, if Mahomes had to start first year,
but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Don't be an idiot. Like, even if he is an idiot, they should be a solid team. But like,
they won 7 games last year. 7.
I mean, yeah, but that doesn't always mean like, oh, you're gonna win more. Even though they probably should win more than 7. But I think it's just don't be an idiot. I think that's on and off the field.
Well,
Don't
yeah.
be an idiot. Not as like getting in trouble, but Caleb Williams' personality is kind of like he's trying to get ownership stakes in teams. I know that's a lot of his dad, but still. And
I saw something, and I don't know how true it is, but I did see something where they wanted a no tag clause in his rookie contract, which has never been
yeah,
a thing.
that
Now I don't know
just
how
don't
true
be
that
an
is. I
idiot.
saw it on Twitter.
I just don't be an idiot. I think it's that much. Don't get into hype, and they should be fine.
See, I know a lot of people rip him for some of the stuff he does and all that, but like,
I mean, I don't care about the fingernails.
no, I don't care about that either. Like, I don't give a crap about that. But people saying like, here's the thing. Let's say that he's a tad immature. There's a lot of veterans in that locker room that he can lean. You have Keenan Allen in the locker room. You have DJ Moore. For me, the biggest storyline, yeah, it's Caleb Williams, but it's the coaching. Because I think Matt Eberflus, if Chicago misses the playoffs this year, because the expectations are going to be Chicago at least makes a push for the playoffs. If you're not doing that, I think Eberflus is out of a job, and Shane Waldron better step up his coaching because last year in Seattle, it was pretty obvious that he misutilized some of the weapons in that offense. And JSN in a postseason interview, you can tell that he was not a huge fan of Shane Waldron. So he better utilize his weapons pretty well. I think for me, it's just coaching outside of Caleb Williams that's what the season is going to come down to. If Matt Eberflus can be a good head coach, and he's going to take care of the defense side of the ball. He's a defense coordinator for the Colts. So Shane Waldron's going to have to help that offense develop. And I don't know. I think Chicago, I mean, I forget who they play week. They play Tennessee week 1. I personally like Chicago in that game, but I think they have to get to a strong start in the season if they want to be taken seriously.
No, yeah, coaching will be pretty big. They have a lot of talent, and like when you're saying how you think the Shane Waldron thing is big in Seattle, him leaving, I mean that could, if you're right that he's just terrible, then that's terrible for a rookie quarterback.
One, like if I was doing a pro and con thing of like or like reasons why I like Chicago, reasons why I don't like Chicago. Shane Waldron's a huge reason why I would be hesitant in Chicago's comments. But for me, you have Caleb Williams who's super talented, and you have all these weapons. Like if it was like Justin Fields with all his weapons, there would be people saying like, "Oh, Justin Fields hasn't really proven anything." But it's Caleb Williams. I mean, he was by far the best quarterback in college last year. Yeah, he struggled at times behind a terrible offense.
He was not the best quarterback in college last year.
Okay, not the best. No, Jane Daniels was probably better. And yeah, I probably think I probably shouldn't have said it, but I think behind like USC, I think offensive line was terrible, and he was still able to win some ball games. Now, yeah, he struggled at times, but I don't know. I think they have a good enough offensive line. Defense is good. Weapons are good. I have a lot of confidence in Chicago this year.
Oh yeah, it wasn't great when in the bowl game. What's his name? The USC quarterback, because Caleb didn't play, threw for like 6 touchdowns and 400 something yards.
Yeah,
it seemed like the USC.
Well, who they play that game though?
I don't know, but nevertheless,
I don't think it was.
Is the best the offense looked all year. I'm not obviously. I think Caleb is fantastic and shit. I think Caleb. I think I've said this. I think he's going to disappoint some people this year, but I still think he's going to be like second best quarterback in the league in 2 years. I think that the CJ Stroud years, they played Louisville, who was a good defense. And that's about, and yeah, he had 372 yards, 6 touchdowns. Miller Moss that was nuts. But I think the CJ Stroud year has people messed up on the thought of rookie quarterbacks. I mean, I was not a big CJ Stroud fan. Obviously, I was wrong. Well,
Herbert also had really good. I think Herbert statistically had like the best rookie season.
Okay, but CJ Stroud was different though.
Well, no, Stroud achieved more, but like
watching CJ Stroud last year was different. I mean, Caleb should not be even. He shouldn't even be thought to like he has to have as good a year as Herbert did. Because Herbert had a great, like a nuts year. Even though he has these weapons, I just don't think that's the expectations that should be put on even the number 1 pick to play that well. Just develop and win 8. Try to get 500. That's what I think. So I think Caleb's going to disappoint some people this year because I think he does have a lot to learn on and off the field. And then in 2 or 3 years, he's going to be insane.
Well, that will do it for our first part of this episode. We will then shift over to the AFC side. But as I always say, make sure to subscribe to our podcast, follow us on YouTube, and always leave comments of what you want us to talk about. We are always, looking to talk about new things. So if you have anything that you want us to talk about, reach out in the comment section. But until then, we'll shift over to the AFC side here soon.